preparing to live stream.
Okay. Well, should I go to your profile to see that?
Yeah, you could do. I will also share in my. Okay, I think we are live. Let's see if I can get you the link here. Yeah, here we go. I'm going to put it in the chat, okay? Great.
Okay. Chat where? Messenger?
I put it in the Zoom chat. I can also send to you on Messenger.
Okay, I have the link.
Okay. And live stream. Okay, great. I'm going to turn down that. Great. Okay, because then I can catch live comments as they happen. Okay. Hey, anybody watching? Greetings. Okay, hang on. Okay, great. Now I can keep an eye on comments as well. Okay.
Well,
Hi, Cenk.
hi.
Who are you?
I'm a psychotherapist. I
You.
work so far with a lot of men and yeah, done a lot of work in addictions, which really is trauma work. And I believe we all carry some trauma. And yeah, here we are today to talk about male suffering and um, how to support the men in our lives, I guess.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me. Yeah, if for people who didn't catch Cenk's name, it's Cenk Matalon. Yeah, he's, did I say it wrong?
Oh, it's just spelled with a C.
Yes. So we'll put your website in the comments here. And as we go, of course, we love participation. So anything that lands for you, anything that feels confusing, any questions you might have, please let us know. We'd love to respond. Okay, so I wanted to talk to Cenk about this issue in particular because, well, for many reasons. One, because he is a very brilliant therapist. Two, because he's a brilliant therapist who has a lot of experience with men in particular. Three, because he's done a great deal of work himself and so has been on the journey himself, which, you know, I think must be the case really in order to be able to support others. Yeah, and I feel like there are times when I do well at supporting men and times when I feel kind of mystified. And so I was looking forward to your input here. Yeah. Is there anywhere you would like to begin the conversation that you feel is important?
Well, I can start with like what got me into this work that I've been doing on myself. And
okay. Hey, sorry. It's important.
it's just through those experiences that I got to taste firsthand my own suffering and then the healing and then the growth journey and that. So the things I talk about coming from a place where me working on them on a daily basis, haven't been working on them for a while. And what really got me into this work in the first place for me was a very difficult breakup, really painful breakup, at the end of which I asked myself, well, what is love? Because it didn't feel like love. The way I behaved, the way she behaved, and the way that it all ended and everything. So I was about 21, 22, long time ago now, but that started something in me, started something really profound that in a way put me on the path, so to speak, path towards trying to find some answers to these very big questions. What is love? Who am I? And what is this life? Meaning, purpose, the whole thing. Who am I really? Yes, the society is saying this, that, all the shit or the pressures there. That's creating depression, anxiety, performance anxiety, insecurity, pain. But underneath it all, who is this person? So I find that usually through a lot of suffering, one day something really deep in us awakens and says, this has to stop. I'm going to find some answers for myself now. I don't want to live like this. That's what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like there's a lot of pain and also the reach towards something better, different.
Totally. And the pain becomes unbearable, rock bottom type of stuff. And then we go, well, life cannot be all about this. And we then want to transform the whole thing and live differently,
Yeah.
live from a different place too.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I want to come back to that. Live from a different place, I think is really important. Um, so one of the things we were talking about beforehand was that it can be difficult, or you were sharing how in your experience that there's a strong element of male conditioning that is basically I should have it all figured out on my own.
Yeah.
And yet, at least for me, outside support has been absolutely essential in my healing. There's no way I'd be here. I'm not sure I'd be on the planet today if I
Yeah.
didn't.
In some ways, maybe, I mean, would you agree that sometimes women have an easier time?
Yeah. Yeah. Of asking for help.
Yeah. It's that's normal.
Sorry, can you say that again? I think I cut you out.
That's normal. That would be normal, expected, understandable.
Yeah. And so I guess, can you speak to what supported you in the to or just speak to some of the dynamics of pressure in your system in both I guess that really profound seed moment of being like I am getting help versus or as well as moments as you go when you decide to allow yourself to receive support.
I mean, for me, the asking for the help itself was not that difficult because I was already doing a degree on psychology, so I was already in it. And I had been a meditator for a while, so this inner work stuff had already been happening. But this doesn't mean that once I'm receiving support, that it was any comfortable at all, because it usually remains quite uncomfortable. And I think the male conditioning that's in play there is that, yeah, I should have been able to figure this out. Why do I need people? Am I not strong? Why do I have to pay this person to talk to them to figure out my life? This is my life. I know it better than them. So all that continues, and all that is really shame, toxic shame. Like there's something wrong with me. I'm not enough. I'm failing at this. I am a failure. Not enough, not this enough, not that enough, not bright enough, or whatever it is. Like somehow I'm not enough that I cannot figure this out alone. And like I need someone. And it's extremely vulnerable, I think, for a lot of men who need someone.
Right. Okay. So inherently receiving help or needing someone equals I am wrong or I have failed.
I'm a failure. Even worse than I have failed. I'm a failure.
Right.
That's the toxic shame part of it. You know, whatever we say after I am carries incredible importance in terms of psychological health.
Yeah.
And I am not enough, not man enough, or some kind of failure, loser, whatever comes. I am weak or whatever. Then it's extremely soul deadening. Yeah, and that's the basis of insecurity, unworthiness, undeserving, self-doubt, tremendous self-doubt, performance anxiety,
So, okay.
depression.
So because that shame is running on a very unconscious level, then the opportunity to receive support might come, or we might ask for support and kind of not really be able to take it in, say, because there's something in that dynamic of drawing it in where hang on, this means I'm a failure. Deep down, this is running, right? So how what's next to support the seeing of that more clearly in order to engage differently? Yeah.
Well, very likely that man is not aware that he's even functioning from this place, because toxic shame being so extremely painful, it mutates very quickly to different states. What that means is maybe I'm just looking pissed off. Maybe you're trying to help me and you're saying, hey, Jane, what do you think about this? Should we, whatever. And then maybe I'm saying, hey, leave me alone. I don't need any of this. And I shut the door, I leave. Maybe I swear at you. It will come out as the defensiveness or shutting down or some kind of complacency, depression. Well, I don't care. Denial, helplessness, powerlessness, and really wallowing in that, that's how a lot of us spend a lot of time in our lives, until we go, well, I can't live like this anymore. But so it will mutate to different states. It can also mutate into overcompetitiveness. It can mutate into wanting attention only on me all the time. Or because we are disconnected from ourselves with this toxic shame. And it can look like workaholism. Well, the bad news is our culture encourages so many of the things that are actually only defense strategies of how can I deny my own pain? Well, getting lost in one's work, which a lot of men do, even alcohol, it's glorified. Well, suddenly, oh, he's such a professional, or he's in love with his work, as if this is something good. Usually being in love with one's work in this way, if it's driven from suffering, it's actually a symptom of trauma. It's not a symptom of somehow this person is just,
Yeah. 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 Basically, am I being driven? What the action that I'm taking, what is the seed underneath it? And is it an underlying feeling of lack, or is it a genuine, true heart desire movement that is expansive and life affirming?
exactly. When we're feeling toxic shame, that place in us that the genuine desire comes from is actually completely blocked. It's completely obscured. And toxic shame is running the show. Unworthiness is running the show. The essential self, the authentic self is gone.
Yeah, great. So what in your mind, is there a sort of a like pause red light button to be like, hang on, I am operating, I'm taking action out of a root of toxic shame versus
Totally. I think some clues, like some cues, might be a feeling of rush, a feeling of I cannot stop, a feeling of desperateness can be there, craving for attention, feeling desperate for something. Well, I'm walking on the street. How many women are looking at me? From a desperate, can I get a glance from this one? Can I get a glance from that one? That means in that moment, the unworthiness is hungry for somehow for the outside world to reassure me that I am not a failure, that I am not this, I am not that. But the thing is, that's a pit with no end. It's a bottomless thing. It's completely bottomless. I mean, no wonder why a lot of CEOs end up committing suicide. Lots of celebrities die to addictions and everything. So if certain things that way really satisfied at a profound level, these people would not be suffering so much. Very famous people, very wealthy people, and all that. So what this means is, where are we being driven from? Because this monster of toxic shame, part of that is unhealthy pride, entitlement, whatever self-righteousness can go in there, this unworthiness, nothing can fix it. There's absolutely nothing that can fix it on the outside. Maybe one thing that can come at least close to even making it more likely for something to be seen as really loving and supportive people. But to the degree that there's an opening, if there's no opening at all within the person, regardless of how many loving and supportive people they have around them, will still not be enough. So it's an inner game, really.
Totally. Yeah. And there's more I want to say on that, but there's a great question here in the comments from Tracy. Great question, Tracy. So she's asking, what would be positive comments to drop around teen boys that would make them comfortable to shake the toxic male vibe? I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think the toxic male and the toxic masculinity, I think the word toxic and these other words should not be taken together.
Yeah.
But we can talk about unhealthy patterns. We can talk about self-care, right? Self-care. We are all deserving. We are worthy at a basic human respect level, that we are each unique. We're not special, but we are unique. No one's special in the sense that, but we are all unique flowerings of life energy. So in that sense, we can have respect and we can honor each person's dignity. And one of the most important things is not scold them, not make them feel less than, not blame or shame them, to watch our tone of voice when we're talking with them. And as much as possible to be loving and supportive.
Which requires that we within ourselves look at, where am I carrying toxic shame, right?
Sure.
Where am I still carrying toxic shame, especially unconsciously, right? And insofar as I am, sorry, go ahead.
There's so much of that around body image, right? So much of that around performance, around how successful, like quote unquote successful.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like another indicator of it is when something is coming up, that where discomfort is arising, right? So if they're bringing something to the table, for example, and there's discomfort in your own system, or your something in the dynamic is causing discomfort to arise, then there's some sort of trigger alive. And the more we can simply be present to the discomfort and not want to like slam the door on whatever it is that's causing that, the more space that person is going to feel within themselves to also be present to that discomfort. So that's how we can model that for others. Yeah.
Well, what I'm hearing in that is, let's honor our own emotions, all of them, and let's honor the other person's emotions, regardless of what their age or gender. And once we emotionally make more space for ourselves and other people, they feel they can trust us more. It's okay to be vulnerable. They feel safe around us. And emotion is the circuitry of relationship. So the more we honor all our emotions, and the more we honor the other person's emotions. So of course, what one feels and what one is doing with that emotion is completely different things. So we can still have boundaries around, hey, you know what? I understand you are angry, but I don't want you to throw your cell phone to the TV right now. And I understand you're angry, but you don't get to yell at me like this. So we address the behavior, but we have to acknowledge the emotion.
Yes.
Otherwise we're not connecting.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I was going to ask you to elaborate or clarify what you mean when you say honoring emotion, because that's so important. We also have more questions coming, but maybe answer that and then I'll bring the questions forward.
Can be mirror. We can ask, okay, how are you feeling? Or we can directly mirror, or I can tell you're angry. I would be angry if I were you in this situation. So we are empathically resonating with the other person. And at the same time, please do this, please do not do that. Or I don't appreciate that you're swearing at me. I understand you're angry, but if you want to tell me what's going on for you, I'm here to listen. But if you're going to swear, I'm leaving. So we get to put our boundaries as well.
Okay, I appreciate that. Okay. Zonkar Kempo is asking, do you believe attachment is the root of suffering?
This is a very Buddhist question.
Well, I believe he's a Buddhist leader. So,
Well, when we talk about attachment in terms of the observer getting lost in an object, of course. But relationally, attachment has a bad rap. Relationally speaking, my love with my parents, my love with my girlfriend, my love with my friends, things like that. Attachment has to be there and has to be honored fully. We do a lot of foolish things in our culture today in the name of freedom. All of that is what we're getting so foolishly attached to our non-attachment. I think that whole thing is bullshit. What we need to do is we need to find healthier ways of attachment because we don't want to get codependent, but we also don't want to live as though no one matters or our relationships don't matter. So I think true interdependence honors attachment fully and is not afraid of attachment even one bit. And that's the realization of Buddhism.
yeah, beautiful. I feel like one of the places we get into trouble sometimes is in the translation of the word attachment, right? So I mean, I certainly feel that insofar as there is a moment of reality arising where an aspect of my being is reaching for something other than what is, that is the root of suffering.
So we don't want our attachment to become toxic or to become addictive. Let's say in a relationship, we don't want it to become addictive. We also don't want to be driven from a place of desperation.
Yeah, I think we get to hold both at the same time. We get to hold that my healthiest state of being is one in which I can rest into and acknowledge the completion of this moment, no matter what. Then from there, I also get to have and build healthy relationships where there is trust being built over time and a reliability and a care and a desire being built over time.
For sure. And of course, to get into relational realms, we don't need to wait until we are awakened enough.
Yeah, right.
Our life is here. Nothing's waiting. We shouldn't wait for anything either. So life is just wanting us to go into it.
Yeah. Okay, beautiful. Another question here. This is from Christopher Barkman. What are some ways you see toxic male shame show up in romantic relationships, and how does this affect male-female relational dynamics? That's a big question.
From my experience too, I think it shows up as isolation. We become afraid of connecting because while we're getting challenged, when I get challenged, I'm getting defensive. I might either get aggressive with my partner or I might go and isolate. That means I'm going to numb myself. I don't want to show up. I go into my men's cave, which is usually our heads are thinking, or some kind of activity that would otherwise be healthy, but the way I'm using it makes it unhealthy now. Maybe I'm overly getting lost in some kind of video games or TV shows, whatever it is. And yeah, defensiveness, isolation, complacency, kind of giving up. Okay, well, whatever. We live with this fuck it attitude. I hear that a lot from people. And that means like, it's almost like I have given up on my own self, in my own life. And of course, that has an impact on the people around us. Yeah. Addiction, all of that. Because the pain is so much, we feel like we have to numb it.
Yeah, I think I feel like, and this is maybe too big of a can of worms, but I feel like also often, and I believe women have a part to play in this too, for sure. I feel like one of the beautiful things that women get to learn how to do as we mature is to take greater ownership over our desires and learn to express those in ways that are direct while still being not not dependent, you know, not that of course not to take away from interdependency, but that I'm expressing my desire from a place that's what's true for me in my heart and what I'm needing and desiring and wanting in a moment. And then how can I say that in a way where I truly put it on the table, which is a very vulnerable thing to do, which is why I think many women don't. We're afraid we're gonna be told no, and so we don't want to face the pain of that rejection, right? And then, so anyways, to truly put it on the table, knowing that at the same time, it's not that person's responsibility to meet this.
Exactly. I mean, I think we all need to really practice being sovereignty, or healthy autonomy that's coming from a healthy place.
Yeah.
Continue to practicing sovereignty. Sovereignty means I am practicing being myself in the relationship. Simple,
Yeah.
very simple. I am myself in the relationship. That to me means sovereignty. If the other is doing the same thing, then the space that we can create together, this is the third place where we can call the we space, the relational realm itself. Then we are adding health, clarity to that space that we get to create together.
Yeah. Gorgeous. Yeah. So just kind of circling back a little bit. So I feel like one of the challenging relational dynamics that sometimes come up is there's a desire present that's kind of in the field and felt by everybody. And there's sort of like, I want it. And, or maybe it's said and put on the table, even in a very clean, clear way. And then sometimes, and it's sometimes I feel like men can perceive that desire and feel, or maybe like overtake on the responsibility for fulfilling that desire, and then um, maybe start to make themselves wrong for not having fulfilled the desire or something like that. What would you say here?
Yes, what I can say, what I've been learning and learning the hard way in some ways, but what I've been learning is I've been learning to become a better listener, but not a inactive listener either. A very engaged listener, empathically, and without taking on that whatever uh, someone close to me, let's say woman close to me, is voicing, that I don't have to fix it. More than anything, she just wants me to listen. So, but for that, again, we need to do a lot of work on our toxic shame as men so that we can stay within our own center while either we receive feedback about ourselves or we hear our partner complain about something that maybe we don't agree with her. To be able to make space for that, I need to have my own anchoring within my own being. And right, otherwise I'm going to try to be very quick with everything. But I think in my experience, just if I can just take a step back and make space actively though, I just find that that creates connection. And maybe what she's voicing is something I can do something about, but let's connect first. Let's emotionally resonate first. And then that allows something to get processed, to get digested more in the other person. And then they feel I align with them. So they feel I am an ally in their thing. Like this is compassionate suffering together. That's the compassion means suffering together. So first, I have to empathically resonate so that I align energetically without losing my center. And from that place, maybe I can ask after, maybe after 5-10 minutes, I can ask. When the energy kind of dies down, there's an opening, I can go, hey, I have an idea about that. Would you like to hear it? Or maybe this woman I'm interacting with, maybe she'll ask, hey, what do you think I should do? Okay, that's an amazing time to say what we think. That's the place to give an input, not before, because usually what's happening is that it's an energetic, emotional thing going on. And the other person, more often than not, what I found is that they want to be together in that energy more than anything else.
I think that's a very important point, which also is true in I mean, in any relationship where in any situation, period, in life, where it isn't really the things that we say that matter. It's the quality with which we show up. I mean, which doesn't mean obviously our words are also important, but the quality and energetics underneath the words are what truly communicates so much more. Yeah, so I appreciate that emphasis.
Listening to someone actively and really deeply is such an incredible experience. I mean, it's actually a transcendent experience because we're talking about.
Yeah, yeah, great. Sorry, I'm just scanning the comments here. Okay, Christopher is signing off. Nice to have you, Christopher. Okay, Sanjaya has a question. She says, what ways can women support men better that is wholesome?
Yeah, really keeping in mind that there's a lot of toxic shame going on in his system. So I think men grow through being challenged. For us men, being challenged and challenging ourselves is an extremely important thing. A man who doesn't have appropriate challenge in life feels dead. And it makes us feel a lot more alive and passionate when we know we are working on something, not obsessively like a project. Everything doesn't have to become a project, but we are deepening our curiosity. We're diving into something. We're engaged. We love that. But also, when we are challenged, I think it's so important for that challenge to come very clean and to come in a very healthy way. There is such a thing as toxic challenge that can be corrosive.
Yeah, I guess toxic challenge would have a sort of energy of like, prove it, or I don't really believe you can do it, or kind of a demeaning. So, but I would love for you to give an example of what's a really healthy way to challenge.
I guess if the relationship's close enough, be vulnerable. Be
Yeah.
vulnerable to the truth. Maybe the truth might be, let's say I'm this woman now that, talking to the men, and maybe the truth is, hey, when you don't listen to me, I feel really alone. Well, maybe that's the truth. When you don't listen to me, I feel really alone. In that, I'm being vulnerable as I'm saying that. The other person is going to feel the vulnerability. And sometimes we need to rock the boat a little bit, but as much as possible with kindness, at least some compassion, and let's be really honest about what's happening for us. Why am I wanting this to be addressed in the relationship? Why? Well, because I feel alone.
Yeah.
And it means a lot to me for him to listen.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I guess that it doesn't mean that one cannot ask to be heard, and yet one also, along with that request, needs to be looking at what are the ways in which I'm listening to myself.
Well, relationally, just being vulnerable. Like I'm asking this, but
Yeah.
there are healthy needs of the relationship. In a healthy relationship, people are listening to each other.
Of course. Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
All that. Yeah.
Sorry, I lost that last statement again.
So, like they're making time for each other. Maybe the man has been neglecting his partner for a while. Well, the partner is going to feel that. Hey, like we haven't spent that much time lately. I miss you. The moment we say I miss you, well, the other person is going to soften, or at least it's more likely. It's not like, do you not like me anymore? That's too much. But hey, I miss you. Can we plan a date for this week sometime?
Yeah, and the underlying energetic difference between those statements, not even necessarily the words, though in that case, the words are pretty dramatic. Is, am I communicating this as a statement of desire, or am I communicating this out of a kind of a wanting to push the pain away, or
In a
toss
rela-
the pain
oh, in
around?
in a relationship, to whatever degree of commitment, our heart is on the line. So we want our heart to be treated well.
Yeah.
And we can tap into the vulnerability of that. Relating is an inherently vulnerable thing for everybody.
Yeah.
It does, what I'm saying doesn't have anything to do with our own wounding. Relating alone is a vulnerable thing because we are putting ourselves out there. So of course we want that to be treated well.
Of course. Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's beautiful. I appreciate the acknowledgement of that. I'm thinking of myself and my own tendencies, and yeah, that I have a strong disposition to want to kind of self-care, and that's excellent. And sometimes it can be a way of avoiding that vulnerability, right? And it's like, okay, what, and it's for me to watch. When do I want to kind of end this conversation?
Yeah.
End this conversation because actually a little bit of hurt happened, and I want to care for myself, which is good. I don't want to blame the other person, but can I also be transparent about that? And can I? Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Blame the other person, but maybe they are actually doing something that's hurtful. So maybe relationally, something needs to be brought up to the surface. You see?
For sure.
Yeah. So one thing I want to say about, because the Buddhist question also came. So I've been a meditator for 15 years. I've had a lot of transcendent experiences and everything. Nothing has given me the depth of life experience and the healing growth and even spiritual opening than relational realm healing. Healing within relationship, healing the relational wounds. Nothing has shaken me so much to my core. And I've done a lot of retreats and everything. Than the heartbreak of love and grief and loss and everything, and the vulnerability inherent in human connection. And nothing has brought me closer to my humanity than being in a relationship and going into it with everything I've got. And not like blindly, of course, but eventually opening, because the heart can really open and also heal tremendously. And also break in the places that it has to be broken, because it's breaking open ultimately. So I think relationship is a much superior spiritual path than any meditative practice alone. And I say alone, that's a key word, because we hope so much that meditation will give us. But for those who make relational path as at least another equally important path, they find out how incredibly challenging and beautiful it is.
Well, I think it's a both thing here, because what meditation teaches us is how to self-regulate in a very profound way. And if we don't have that capacity, we can't meet the
Of
out of
course,
the excruciating places.
and the relationship will show us where those spots are that we need to look at. Yeah. So it can really be a beautiful dance between these two different ways of working on ourselves. Enlightenment and relationship, awakening and connection.
Yeah, yeah, gorgeous. Okay, can we circle back here to okay, so obviously okay, well, let me say this. Can we circle back to this idea of supporting men to receive support? And how do we do that skillfully? Is there anything you would say here to that?
Yeah, I think when we are doing our own work, people around us ultimately get inspired, and we can really be showing by example. Really. It benefits everybody. It benefits us to be doing our own work. And then that could become an invitation for the other person to start deepening as well. And for couples, well, couples therapy, I do sessions with couples, inviting the partner for couples therapy. That's such an amazing thing. It sure beats saying in so many words, hey, you need to go work on yourself. It's a lot easier to hear for anybody. Hey, let's work on our relationship. You know, when we feel disconnected, I really miss you. I love you. I want to feel close to you. Let's work on our relationship.
Yeah. Okay. And then I guess I would invite any men watching this to scan for where am I allowing myself to be supported and receive support, and where am I not, and what's the energy behind where am I not? Is there a part of me that feels like I would be wrong or making myself wrong if I were to allow some support in whatever area? Yeah.
And, yeah, we're always committed to something. We're not committing to growth and healing and awakening. There's something else we're committing to. As men too, we can ask ourselves, what am I committed to here? Let me be very, very honest. I'm not committing to my own evolution, but then what am I committing to? That could be an interesting thing to ask ourselves.
Yeah, that's a gorgeous question. Very noble question. Um, uh, I feel like another component is what you were talking about, how like even for you it was like, okay, the asking for the help wasn't so much the really challenging piece. It was the it's the uncomfort that inevitably, of course, if we're actually doing the work, discomfort's going to arise. That's an excellent sign, and yet it's incredibly uncomfortable. So
And that discomfort
yeah,
becomes extremely humbling.
say
So
that again. Sorry, say that again.
that discomfort becomes extremely humbling in the end, because it's only the places in me that are so filled with toxic shame, whatever, that's where the discomfort is coming from. But the more work we do, the more that dissolves and turns into humility. And true humility doesn't mean I'm not going to say anything, I'm going to play small and not upset anybody. That's not humility. That's just self-betrayal more often than not. True humility is extremely empowered state. True humility simply means I don't have to know everything. I don't have to know everything. I simply don't have that burden on my shoulders anymore. True humility is dignity, worth, just not being so hard on ourselves anymore. At peaceness, like being at peace, comfortable within our own skin. To me, that's true humility.
Yeah, yeah. I in the work that I do, we talk about the lover state, right? And the lover state is really a state of total self-acceptance. And I think sometimes we have this fear within ourselves where it's like, well, if I accept myself completely, I'm gonna like become this lazy blob that doesn't actually do anything. When in fact it's the opposite. The more that I can be present to exactly who I am as I am in this moment, whether I know or I don't know, whether I am successful at the thing or unsuccessful, all of those external conditions gone, the more I can practice being okay with myself, underneath, beyond, between all of those, then yeah, I mean, it makes the whole journey way more easy and more pleasant. Even the discomfort, right? It's like the discomfort doesn't have to be a sign that I'm doing something wrong. It can actually be the opposite, which is in fact the case.
Yeah, it can be a sign of finally I'm doing something right. Because we really grow through discomfort. Not that we need to make life difficult for us intentionally, but life is already difficult enough if we're open to those layers, right? And I think like accepting ourselves is also accepting our mortality, accepting just our limitations. And from a spiritual sense, there are no limitations and all that. But from a human sense, we are extremely limited. Every single one of us. There's only 24 hours in the day. We are only so strong or so tall or whatever it is, the different cards that are dealt to us. So we can be an incredibly empowered person. And the humility part comes, my power has a limit. Regardless of how powerful and empowered I am, that too has a limit. No one is the ruler of the universe here. So in that sense, the humility is extremely liberating because I'm a speck of dust in an infinite universe. Wow, what a magical thing. So let's honor the whole thing. We are infinitely vast, so much more incredible than we can ever imagine. At the same time, we are just the sand in an infinite beach and a speck of dust in an infinite universe. So holding these two together is so profoundly liberating because then I have to figure something out, leaves completely. I need to know, I must know, all that burden evaporate. Here we are, showing up for a very brief period. 5 minutes from now, no one can guarantee either of us will be alive. Here we are, very brief time. Let's do this one dance as best as we can.
Yeah.
There's nothing else we can. That's to the extent that we can even. And we will make mistakes, but that's part of this as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's beautifully said. Beautifully said. Okay. Anything else you want to say before we?
Yeah, next time we should talk about the inner critic.
Okay.
The voice in our heads, the emissary of toxic shame. That voice in our heads that says you're not enough, you're this, you're that, you're a failure. Yeah.
Great. Okay, we will do that.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. So thanks everybody who was present. Lovely to hear from you. Thanks for your questions. And yeah, please comment, reply if things came up. And tag me, tag Cenk. And Cenk has a free men's group. Yes, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, there's a private Facebook for men. It's called Men's Group with Cenk, CENK. And yeah, if anyone can ask to join that, any man can ask to join that, and I'll accept you. There, I share things like this and spontaneous videos and live chats where you can ask me questions. And I share more info there usually about upcoming men's groups, information about the website, and better stuff. It's a good place to get a taste about what inner work is, what this men's work is, and I put things there to motivate you guys as well.
Yeah, and we'll drop the link in the comments. Yeah, and then people know, I think, on my page where to find me. There's all sorts of events happening. So
Great.
okay, thank you.
Amazing. Thanks.